Hey there, everyone. It's Will DuPree here in the KXAN Live studio. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to be continuing our conversation about Locked in Limbo, which is the new Catalyst project launched by KXAN just last week, and we're talking about a new feature of it. So we want to bring in our top investigator, Josh Hinkle. Josh, thank you so much for being here this afternoon.
Thanks, Will.
Yeah, we're talking about another portion of this whole storytelling project, and this one is about a podcast that kind of accompanies everything that's happening at the moment.
That's right. Yeah, it's called Catalyst. This is our third season. We started it last year, and we have been putting this together in the background as we've been working on the bigger project, Locked in Limbo. This one is a little bit different than what you might have seen with the series in the past week because it rolls out one episode a week. So we just launched episode number 2 yesterday, so there's still more to come.
And how often do these come out if somebody wanted to take a listen?
Yep, every Monday we have a new episode. So next Monday you'll get to hear the third episode, and then we have a bonus episode coming out after that. So still a few more weeks.
Yeah, something to look forward to. Explain what this particular podcast is about. Once again, you said this is the third series of these. What's the focus of this one?
So the whole Locked in Limbo project is about mental competency of people who are arrested and then cannot stand trial because they're not mentally fit. So we really wanted to dive into one of the cases that you might have seen if you've watched the Locked in Limbo series. There was a man named Adon Castaneda who is from Comal County, just south of Austin, and he was a veteran. And when he came back, he had PTSD. And there was a very, tragic incident that happened in their family, and that kind of contributed to everything that triggered one night and a very violent incident that happened with his family. And he was arrested and taken there, and then spent 4 years bouncing between the Comal County Jail and state hospitals before he was able to actually go to trial. What I love about the podcast is that you really do get to know this family a lot more than you might if you watch the series. The series is great for many reasons, but if you like to really dive into something and sit down and listen to something that is going to be longer than 20 minutes for each episode, I think that you'll really enjoy getting to know this family a little bit more, the ins and outs, how this situation really landed in this family's lap like this, and then also how they're working to get out of it.
Yeah, you really feel for them. We saw the video portion, at least, of this last week, and your heart breaks because of the bouncing back and forth, like you said, that this man dealt with.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I think you really get to know his mother the best, Maria Esparza, who has been his biggest advocate through this whole process. You really understand a lot more about their family too, and some of the things that led up to decisions that were made, and how he really ended up in this situation. It's heartbreaking, but it's also inspiring.
Yes, for sure. Well, we want to give you all a preview of what you can expect from this Locked in Limbo Catalyst podcast. So take a listen to this trailer that we put together, and we'll talk again right after this.
My oldest son is Adon, and at this time he's 33 years old. He was a scout sniper in the Marine Corps. He was stationed in Iraq. I think he was just surrounded by a lot of death and potential for death, and so that was always on his mind. So when he came back, he was not the same young man that left.
From KXAN News and Nexstar Media Group, this is Catalyst, a weekly investigative podcast. I'm your host, Josh Hinkle, and this third season of Catalyst...
Bam, 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 you know.
He shot 23 bullets into our home from the driveway at about 4 in the morning. It was unexpected.
The police, they got their lights on the dash cam. Adon came very close to being shot. And the cop is drawing his gun and tells him, turn around now. Throw it down.
He was picked up by the local sheriff's department and taken to jail.
Adon is indicted with 7 different counts over what he did.
And then began the nightmare of the next few years of trying to navigate the criminal justice system.
Our investigative team is taking a closer look at the issues surrounding mental competency in Texas County jails and the severe backlog for inmates to get treatment.
What competency means is the ability to participate in one's own criminal defense. Some people lack that ability due to a mental illness. In order to proceed with that trial, you have to restore that person's competency.
He was found incompetent to stand trial, and so he was remanded to North Texas State Hospital. And so I felt a great sense of relief, thinking, oh, you know, finally he's going to get some help. And I waited a couple of weeks and nothing happened. He was still there. And so I contacted them, and the person who answered the phone said, well, it'll be 8 months to a year. And I was shocked. She said, we just don't have enough beds.
Hundreds of Texas inmates waiting for a bed in a state hospital, falling deeper into mental illness as they sit in jail, some stuck in the system for months, even years.
I wonder if that's not cruel and unusual punishment. If you're dedicated to restoring these people's health, you don't say, we'll get to you in a year. Just stay in the waiting room, and your waiting room is a jail cell.
We explore what's broken in the state's current system and what's being done to find new solutions.
Unfortunately, sometimes we don't always have leaders that are real bold. And so it really does require advocates like ourselves to continue to keep putting these ideas in front of folks. I'm optimistic. I don't think I've ever been as hopeful as I am today.
The good news is we're still working on it. It'd be a sad day if you came in here and said, what are you going to do about it? I said, we've done all we're going to do. That's just not the case.
New episodes of Catalyst are available Monday mornings starting May 18th.
This is an issue that really kind of lives in the shadows. We need to treat these people fairly, humanely, treat it like a public health issue, because that's what it is.
Once again, everyone, I'm Will DuPree here in the KXAN Live studio, joined by investigator Josh Hinkle. We were talking and showing you all the trailer for the new podcast that is accompanying this new Catalyst project. Josh, this project, it spans all kinds of different areas. We're talking about different graphics and long-form articles as well as video portions. So why pursue a podcast to kind of go hand in hand with everything else that's happening?
Well, we really wanted to tackle the entire Locked in Limbo project as a multi-platform project. And so what that means is we wanted to make sure that if you want to understand our investigations on video, then we have something for you. If you want to read an article about it, then we have something for you. And we know that there are people out there that prefer to experience stories oftentimes as podcasts, that long form listening. And I think that this is something that no other station in the market right now is really doing in the Austin market, you know, and we feel like it's something that people had asked us about and have had a good reception with the past season so far, so it made sense to continue that.
Speaking about the past seasons, this is now the third, so we were locked in limbo at this point. Talk about what the previous podcasts were, and you can still access them on our website.
Yep, that's right. The first season we launched about a year ago, and that was all surrounding our Mayberry, Texas investigation. And if you're not familiar with that one, it was all about missing persons. And we had discovered that over the last 20 years that there were more than 5,000 people that had gone missing in the state of Texas that were still unaccounted for. And the way that their cases were, reported to places where the public could actually find out some information about these cases by law enforcement was not always very uniform. So it's kind of difficult to get the best information out there. And that one was very successful. And so we decided to do a second one, and it was all about mass violence. If you remember, back last November, we launched a history of mass violence. So we did a podcast, a Catalyst podcast with that one as well. And we looked at 40 years of mass violence in Texas. And this was really following the mass shootings that we had, like the Walmart in El Paso, and then the shootings in the Midland, Odessa area. So we wanted to see, just what is happening with this trend. And we found some cases that I think a lot of people forgot. And, for instance, Dangerfield church shooting. We're really able to explore some of the stories that went inside those cases a little bit more than stories I had never heard before, and it helped me understand a little bit more about maybe why this these acts of violence continue to play out in Texas.
Mm-hmm. And we have them again all on our website under the investigative tab. I want you to pull up and talk about where you can find them. Here's this podcast page that we have on our website.
Yeah, so if you go to KXAN.com and you hover over the investigative tab at the top, then just go down to podcasts and it will take you to our podcast page. And if you want to scroll down, we have all 3 seasons there. Season 3 is the one we're on right now, and Season 2 and Season 1 are there as well, so you can listen to them in their entirety. Like I said, Season 3 is about halfway done right now because we're releasing those episodes each week, and we still have 2 more weeks after this, so you can go in and listen to that trailer that you heard and 2 additional episodes right now on Season 3.
So since there's only a few episodes out so far for this latest season, what reception have you gotten about it?
I think the reception's been really positive for the Locked in Limbo project in general. I think mental competency for Texas inmates is a topic that I don't think a lot of people think about because they may not, cross paths with someone who is suffering from mental illness, or they may not be in the criminal justice system themselves, but it still impacts a lot of Texans, and it's an important issue, and it seems like people appreciated being able to learn a little bit more about the topic in general. And I think that it was also something that a lot of people felt like they had a lot more compassion for the families that are going through this. These are people that are pre-trial, so they have not been found guilty of anything, and oftentimes the crimes that they may have committed are very minor crimes and no one was hurt. So there might be a better option for treatment than waiting in a jail for a state hospital bed, and I think that's what you really find out with these stories.
To focus on just this mother in this particular case, why was that? Why pick her out of the other families that you all highlighted in this project?
Well, I knew that with the docuseries, the videos, that we had several cases that we needed to get through because each one of those cases was a little bit different for the purposes of what we wanted to do with that bigger investigation. But this family's case was, there were so many more details about what happened that fateful night, what led up to that, the tragedies that this family has gone through that really, got Adon Castaneda to where he was. And I really wanted to be able to explore that and share that with the listeners a little bit more because when you get a fuller picture of something, I think you understand what this family is going through a lot more, and you can understand that this is just a regular family. This could be anyone. This could be any Texan. This could be my family.
We had previously talked about the different aspects of this project, and you all have been working on it as a team for a while now, on top of all the coronavirus coverage that you've done so well. Talk about that process, about kind of balancing launching this while still covering what's happening currently in the headlines.
Yeah, I mean, I have to give a big shout out to the team that I worked with on this project. This was a big team effort, and it took a lot of time and energy behind the scenes to get this done because, as you said, the coronavirus has been playing out, and of course that's been the thing that we've all been investigating and telling stories about because it's top of mind right now. We actually started in with this mental health in jails project, researching it last summer, so almost a year ago. My colleagues David Barrere, Arzo Dost, Chris Nelson, and then also Eric Henriksen, Robert Sims, and Rachel Garza. They've really been great about keeping this going. So, it's been a lot of nights and weekends and just every spare minute we could do because we were ready to almost launch it before the pandemic hit, and then this happened. So we had to put it kind of on hold, but then we all kind of talked as a group and said, we shouldn't wait any longer because this issue is too important. And right now, this issue is not the focus, but it's still going to be a big problem, and it's going to be even bigger whenever the coronavirus pandemic is over. So we need to make sure that our lawmakers and our viewers and listeners understand what this problem is right now, where it is, and where it's going. So hopefully, the people who are making decisions about this topic will not lose sight of it once we actually have time to breathe.
And I just want to say, if anybody's watching us on Facebook at the moment, please, if you have a question about this project that you would like to ask Josh or to one of the other investigators on our team, please leave it in the comment section. We'll try to address those. If we can't right now, we'll get back to them. We would love to engage with you all about this project and to try to flesh out even more details, because it's already in depth enough, but we would like to dive in even more if possible. For anybody who would want to listen to the podcast, Josh, what can they do? How can they find it?
Well, you already pulled up our KXAN.com page, so that's an easy way to find us on KXAN.com, but we are also you can find the KXAN Catalyst podcast on any place that you would listen to podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, everything. It's all out there.
Wow. Okay. Lots of different ways to engage with this. That's pretty amazing, though, to kind of hit all those different platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure that we were taking this seriously, and we know that it's a different experience than a lot of our KXAN viewers might be used to seeing our content, but we want to let you know that we have this that's out there as well.
And one of the recent podcasts got a pretty big honor recently, too.
Yeah, we won
We'll brag on you a little bit.
Thank you. No, we won a regional Murrow, and that was for the podcast category. This is the first year that they have had this category with this competition, and we felt like that was pretty cool, not just because it's neat to win an award, but it gets some recognition for the topics that we're trying to tackle, and hopefully people see that this is something that is being recognized, and it's an important issue and needs to be paid attention. And that was for our missing persons season, so that was exciting that it was our very first season.
For sure. That's amazing. Okay, well, if anybody would like to follow along with the project, there is a specific website for it. Maybe plug that too and tell people where they can go if they like to read or find out more if they haven't heard about it already.
Yeah, you can go to, we made it easy for you, no matter where you are in Texas, lockedinlimbo.com. That is going to get you to the main project, where you can watch the entire docuseries, and you can watch the pieces that we have created that are focusing on the solutions that places are trying to combat this problem. While you're there also, you can scroll through and really just explore this. We've got long form articles that have a lot of data features to help you understand this a little bit more. And then of course the podcast is there. We just did a half-hour special on TV yesterday.
That's right.
We posted the entire thing on KXAN.com, and so there's a link to that as well. And if you want to watch and sit down and watch the entire extended special, there's a lot of things to explore there. We also have, I thought this was really cool, if you want to scroll up to the top where it says Get Help,
Sure.
Up there at the top, yeah, that's a page that we wanted to set up for resources in case you or your loved ones are going through any kind of mental health crisis or need help navigating the jail and justice system in Texas. And these are groups that we have, looked at and vetted and reached out to, and have talked to a couple of them. Last week you might have seen our interview that's down there at the bottom of that page, actually, with Diana Clater from the Texas Jail Project, and she's was nice enough to come on KXAN Live and talk to us about what kind of resources her group offers families that are going through this. And so I think that if you feel like you need some help, that this is a good place to start. It's a one-stop shop.
Yes, no kidding. There's just so many resources to this project. It's so wonderfully told and researched. So we really would hope that if you haven't checked it out already, please go to lockedinlimbo.com. Very easy to remember.
Thanks.
Well, Josh, is there anything that you'd want to add? I'm going to look over our comment section really quickly one more time to see if there's any questions there to address. But is there anything that you would want to get out there before we wrap up things here on the stream?
Well, I think, we're in the process of trying to figure out what our next season's going to be. Our fourth
It never
season.
stops, does it?
It doesn't stop, no. And we want to make sure that we do it right. So I'm not quite sure what the timing of that's going to be. We've done 3 in a year. Well, that's a lot, because with a lot of these podcasts that you hear, like national podcasts and stuff, it might take 1 or 2 years to get one season out. So we're really trying to crank out the content, but in a thoughtful way, because we want to make sure that we're giving you the best quality investigations that you can get. And personally, I've really enjoyed putting the podcast together because it's a different way to tell stories. And, my background being a reporter, a TV reporter, you kind of have this, a specific medium that you are kind of locked into sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it was fun to get to experiment with that first season, and it just kept going. And so I've really enjoyed being able to do this long form type of storytelling that, it's for this one, I've just been sitting in my house and writing it and editing it and everything, voicing it all there, because most of us have been working from home, and it's really nice to see it kind of come together. And I have to credit my mother also, because she's the biggest podcast junkie that I know.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
And she really likes true crime podcasts. So when we did that first one, the missing persons season, she was all about it, and she gives me feedback and everything. So it's been nice to get to bounce things off of her. She's our biggest podcast fan.
Yeah, for sure. A definite support system there.
Yeah.
That was my question for you, though, is how do you plan that out? How do you extend the storytelling so that it fits over several episodes of a podcast and you keep that kind of narrative going too?
Yeah, I kind of order it. So, I know I want to get the docuseries done first, because that's going to be kind of the thing that leads our project. And I know that the podcast is going to be playing out for weeks after that initial project launches. So once I get kind of the priority things done, then I start working on the podcast. And by that time, I've maybe gotten some more answers and some more information that is worth kind of making that extra part of the podcast. And I've been able to look at what parts of the story have I already told, and what things have I had to leave out and set aside that would still make really great elements for the podcast. And I'm usually working on one a week. It takes quite a while to put these together. I mean, it's not something you can slap together in one day. And I think that just being able to take that kind of time on it, it sometimes takes about a week, but it's worth it.
And the time, how long do these last usually?
It kind of depends. Last season with mass violence, they were a little shorter, but there were more episodes with those. So they were about 15 minutes each. So they're not your hour-long podcasts that you need to sit down and really listen to. I've heard people like to listen to this podcast specifically when they're driving to work,
yeah,
or when they're cleaning the house or something. And I think that makes sense, because it's short enough to digest that. I think the longest one we've done so far is about 25 minutes.
Okay, so yeah, that would definitely be a commute to work for sure.
One of the
play them on.
Yeah, one of the cool things about this season, though, that we're trying is the final episode, which is 2 weeks from now, is going to be a bonus episode that we're going to be sitting down with a mental health expert from here in Austin. That we're not so much focusing specifically on the stories, but we're focusing on the issues that are brought up in these, and talking about the reality and what people can do if they're experiencing those kind of things. And I think it's going to be a longer conversation, and hopefully something that people can get some good benefit out of.
Yeah, for sure. And working as a reporter, you don't get to use every bit of sound that you have in certain stories. So this is a way, again, to kind of use some of those points that you may not have been able to hit in a different story and use it in this platform.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Josh, I was looking through questions. It looks like we're kind of wrapping things up at this moment. So once again, tell people where they can listen to this podcast.
Sure. Just go to KXAN.com and then go over on the Investigates tab and scroll down to podcasts. It's also easy to find it if you are on Apple Podcasts or anything like that. Just search for KXAN Catalyst.
All right, there we go. Josh Hinkle, everybody who joined us here on KXAN Live. We do appreciate that and all the wonderful reporting that you guys are doing.
Thank you, Will.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you back here another time.